Good evening. This is the Planning Board hybrid meeting for March 10th, 2025, at 4 p.m. My name is Art Sprue. I'm Chair of the Planning Board. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly thereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the Chair. I don't see any notifications, so I'll continue. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Chatham Planning Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 227068-128#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, formerly Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town website as soon as possible. I'll start with a roll call. Warren Chain.
Warren Chain, present.
Bob Hirschafter.
Bob Wirtschafter, present.
Frank Scheer.
Frank Scheer, present.
Charlene Greenhall will not be here. Bob Dubus will be about a half an hour late. And Catherine Hepburn. I can't hear you, but I'm seeing you waving.
Present.
Oh, thank you. And Art Sprue, I'm present. I'd like to just briefly start the meeting off. This was originally intended to have a public hearing for the West Chatham Neighborhood Center bylaw. However, there was a posting error, and we'll have to postpone that public hearing until next Monday, the 17th of March at 4 p.m. So we will have a discussion later on in the agenda, but we will not hold a public hearing tonight. So I would say that we would somewhat use this as a rehearsal or vetting out any last things that we're thinking about or understanding with it. We do have some comments from town council, and I'd like to go through those just to understand what their latest comments were. I will probably delay any start of that discussion until about 5 o'clock, since that was the original time that was posted for today's public hearing, just in case some are attending either online or in person here, so that they'll at least hear the discussion that we have beginning at that point. I'd like to start with a review of the minutes. Let's start with the February 3rd, 2025 working session. Do any of the board members have any comments or questions about these minutes?
I
Frank?
just have one very important one.
Yes.
At the end of the minutes, for the last paragraph,
Yes.
a motion was made, that sentence, there's an R that's missing from the end of my name.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? With that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 3rd, 2025 working session?
So move.
I have a second.
No, I'll second.
I'll do a roll call vote. Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Frank Scheer,
Frank Scheer, approve.
Catherine Hepburn,
Catherine Halpern, approve.
and Art Sprue, I approve. Next, we have minutes from our regular meeting on February 10th, 2025. Again, any comments or edits from board members? I'm not seeing any. I have no comments myself. Do I have a motion for approval of the February 10th, 2025 meeting minutes?
This is Warren Chain, so moved.
And a second?
A second.
I'll do a roll call vote. Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Art Spru, excuse me, Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Frank Shear,
Frank Sure, approve.
Catherine Halpern,
Catherine Halpern, approve.
and Art Spru, I approve. All right, so I'd like to, next item on the agenda is change of use, 878 Main Street. Diggins, do I have an applicant who would like to present? Please come up to the microphone and just state your name for everyone.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Diggin, and I am trying to open a small, high-end salon at it's 880 Main Street, but I think it's 878 on here. So I have been in the process of doing this now for a few months, and I'm finally here, so I'm very excited. I originally am from Nantucket, and I've been on Nantucket for about 15 years and moved over here about a year ago. So I'm used to the small town with the type of clientele in this area as well as Nantucket. So a lot of my clients will be coming from Nantucket to enjoy Chatham as well. So I'm excited, and I'm hoping that all goes well.
Okay. So this is just a change of use. So Christine, perhaps you can just give a couple of highlights from your site plan review criteria that you had.
Sure. This is a change of use application for 878 880 Main Street. It was previously an office use. It happens to be a condo unit within a condo association. The applicant ended up working with a surveyor to develop a plan for parking. The parking is based upon the fact that she has three seats or three stations. So we're looking at possibly 3 employees plus a fourth for reception or for welcome, that type of thing, and then obviously clients for each one of those and maybe a little bit of overlap. The proposal, the way that the surveyor has drawn it, is for additional parking spaces on a grassed area. It is unclear from the picture if they're going to like stripe them or if they're gonna mark them in some way, but that is something that you would have to have done. I think that, we do have the owner on as well to speak to it, the owner of the condo unit that is being rented or leased. We do have, that agreement in place, and we do have the authorization, and we do have a copy of the lease as proposed. We also have comments received from the various departments in town. So the applicant has applied to the DPW for increased water flow. So that application is in their hands. There's no status on that yet. We have also got confirmation from the Board of Health that there is municipal sewer in this area. We do have a member of the condo association who has provided you some additional information that I passed out tonight. It was a plan from 1990s when the association was developed, or the condo units were developed, and it talks to the parking spaces there at that time. This is within the historic business district, so obviously if they go forward with signage or any external amendments to the facility eventually, then, or the unit, they would have to go before the HBDC. But at present, we do not have any anything suggesting that they're doing any of those type of things. I guess that's the highlights, and I would say to you, after you ask your questions, we can have the member of the condo association
Okay.
or the owner of the unit that they would like to speak.
Well, why don't we do that first? Let's see if the board members have any question of the applicant, and then we can go to the next stage. Warren, any comments,
Yeah.
questions?
Well, in general, I think it's a fine change of use. I do have a few comments, one of which is that there was a handwritten plan put forward for the new facility, but I can't for the life of me make that plan make any sense at all with the drawings that we have.
Well, so that's why you received the drawing, because that's what came in with the initial application, when the applicant had said that we've had it for a while, is because that's what we received to start with, and then they evolved to an actual, the big plan that's on the screen now.
Okay, so,
So the three, I mean.
no, I mean, it's obvious if you go out there what's going on. It's
Right.
just what was submitted, so I just wanted to
So yes, we made them,
say, gee, is this the wrong plan?
yeah, no, I just
The
left it in
answer
there
is
because it was
essentially yes.
part of the
Um, With respect to the parking, I do expect that with this change of use, there will be an increase in the number of cars coming and going from that site, as well as the intensity during the business hours compared to what its current use is. As a result, I would ask the board whether it's appropriate to ask that the 2 parking spaces which are allocated or required for the resident of the building, whether those spaces perhaps should be reserved, such that they wouldn't be necessarily trying to find a place to park all the time. It also, as was mentioned earlier, the spaces, I think there are 5 of them on the grass strip. I think that's fine. Plenty of room there, but at the same time, it's certainly not obvious that it's parking space. So there needs to be some way to identify that it's okay to park there, whether it's a sign or whether it's replacing the grass with gravel or something, or lining the grass or something, at least signs which says it's okay to park here, because otherwise people wouldn't. As well, I had a question of staff really, and that is whether with this change of use, do we need any more than 1 handicap parking space? Because there's only 1 identified. That's just a question.
It did not trigger the need for an additional parking space,
No,
handicap space?
so we just need one handicap space out of the 20?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be my only question is really whether we shouldn't reserve 2 of the spaces and so indicate with signage for the condo owner who's the resident of the location. 2 spaces are identified in the proposal for that purpose. But again, I'd be guided by what the board feels. Seems to me it would be an appropriate thing to require, given the increased flow of traffic in and out during the day. That and somehow identifying that the grass spaces are in fact okay to park on, whether it's signage or some other method. But that's all.
Bob Werschafter,
No comments.
Frank Scher?
I go to Chatham Works from time to time, and when I do, there are many cars parked on the lawn,
Oh.
on the grass, often 10 or something like that. And there's no indication that you're allowed to park there. People just do. And they just know that that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that we need some kind of indication that it's okay to park there, assuming that it's flat and very clear that it's open and available. So that's my only input.
Okay. Catherine Halpern, do you have any comments or questions of the applicant?
I do actually. I'm just wondering if you could show us on the plan that's on the screen, if you could use the pointer, or maybe if Annie could help, whoever's showing the screen, show us where are the 15 parking spaces that are not on the grass, and where are the 5 parking spaces that will be on the grass. It's just not completely clear to me which are the parking spaces and which will be the parking spaces for the residents of the building.
Please go ahead.
So I think it's all, so this is where they go in, so I think it's all these spaces in here, where he had drawn it originally. I do,
Those are the grass
I-
spaces, you mean? Yes.
So somehow on my screen remotely, oh, there's your marker. Okay, if you could show
sorry.
that again, wasn't showing before. So let's see where the grass spaces are.
so in here.
And there's 5 grass spaces showing there on that particular plan, correct? Okay.
Again, I'm not seeing an arrow. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I see four.
Yeah.
Catherine, if you take a look at the entrance drive into the site.
is it-
It's just before you get to the paved area for parking. It's 5 spaces on the grass on the right side.
Okay, so, and that would be the east, I think.
Correct, that would be the
Yes.
east side, yes.
And they're-
Okay,
And they're
along
lines,
the
on-
drive
they're
to the
actually
east.
lines on the drawing.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, great. Thank you. I see that. So that was my question, and then I will go with what the board decides. You've had 2 opinions about whether those spaces should be marked, the grass spaces should be marked in one, in some way or another. I'd actually favor marking them, or I don't know, maybe even a small sign, something that lets people know that they can park there. So those were the only comments I had about, I think with this change of use, the main issues are the parking and the increased traffic, and then the sewage and water flow needs to be increased. So, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. And I want to welcome Bob Dubus. He's joined our meeting.
So Art, can I?
Yes, please go ahead.
I think that actually what is needed is a barrier at the back of each parking space. So
Yeah.
people don't go
You'll
past that.
Stop, yeah.
Yeah, and that would tell people that there's a parking space
Yeah,
there.
yep.
Just one cement or barrier that goes maybe 6 inches that just tells people not to drive past that and go down the hill or whatever,
So I only need one clarification. There was a site plan that was originally approved back in 1995, 1996. It showed 20 spaces required and 20 provided. With this change of use, does that require, it appears like it still only requires 20 spaces. Is that right, Christine?
No, that's why they added the additional spaces on the
There,
grass.
well, the original.
But there was a different use, well, there was a different use before, but there was a salon before, so I guess it is
Okay.
a salon at that time, and it's gonna be a salon again now.
Okay, so that way back when, okay, the use might have changed a few times since. then.
Right.
Okay. I think you're the chair of the homeowners association. If you have any comments or questions of the board, please step up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
Hi, David Veach. I am an owner of another of the commercial condos in one of the storage spaces below, and am president of the condo association. I can probably help clarify a few things for you. The reserve parking, so I provided you with a copy of the original approved site plan from when we developed this property, and that actually was approved in February of '97. And at that time, and I made a copy of the parking allocation, parking calculations of that I passed out, or I gave to Christine to hand out to folks, because I'm wanting to compare that to this current proposal. So that site plan was, the commercial units, there were the two spaces for the residential unit on the second floor. But the three commercial units were all apportioned parking based on the 150, one space for every 150 square feet, as outlined in the bylaw for retail or office type of use. And under those calculations, and those calculations maxed out the 20 spaces. There are 15 paved spaces in the lot, and then 5 reserve spaces on the grass that have been shown that way since '97. And they do occasionally get used, the spaces on the grass, and I'm not aware of any confusion with respect to using of those spaces. If the paved spaces are full, people aren't shy about parking on those grass spaces. But if you'll notice, in the '97 plan, which I would think is still in effect, absent some other, and I'd asked, and there doesn't seem to be any other site plan in the file, the space that Caitlin is seeking to rent is allocated at 600 square feet of space, and so that's allocating 4 spaces. If you go to and you look at what this says is 450 square foot offices in the front building, let's call it the building on the street, which required 6 spaces, the allocation of 6 spaces. Again, 150 square feet per space. Dance studio, 8 spaces, under the same formula. This plan, this plan is maxing also at 20 spaces, but the indication is that the hair salon with 3 stations and employees is going to require as many as 7 spaces. So that's an additional 3 spaces than were allocated in '97. And in order to accomplish that on the current plan, the one that's been prepared most recently, it's the allocation for the front building, the office space, has been reduced to 3, from 6 to 3, as a remote office. So I just found out about all this actually less than a month ago, so I hate to come in at the last minute and present this, but to us, this is somewhat problematic. I mean, we're happy to have a hair salon in the space, but if that space that in the front building that was shown here in this plan as offices eventually became a retail. It was a jewelry store for a number of years, probably for most of its existence, which by the bylaw requires the allocation of 6 spaces. So if we approve this plan, reducing those 6 spaces to 3 spaces, I can tell you that the owners of that space don't look favorably on that kind of change. And so I'm not sure where or how we can, if there's a way to work this out, we're happy to try to do that. But to me, it seems that the issue is somewhat compounded because they are commercial, because they're condo units, commercial condo units. So you have different owners for these different spaces. So if you shift allocation from one space to another, you're actually shifting from one owner to a different owner. And the condo association, like many, not all of them, but the apportionment of ownership, the association is basically based on square footage. So that maps pretty well with this '97 plan, where the allocation of parking based on square footage, and it was equitable from all of those commercial units. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know how or what you normally take into account, but we showed a plan that maxed out the 20 spaces, and now we're seeking to intensify the parking needs for this space, and we still don't have, we don't have any more than those 20 spaces that we initially had. So that's the problem as we, the association, the other owners, see it. And I don't know, I did suggest to the contractor who contacted me, is how I finally found out about all this. And I don't know if Caitlin's amenable to this, but I said one possible, perhaps a solution would be, instead of the 3 stations, that it be 2. And if you had 2 stations, couple of employees, there's your 4 spaces that have already been allocated to that unit. So,
Let me just ask some questions of Christine. The plan that was submitted that is dated January 22nd, 2025, they're showing an allocation of parking to each of the different units. Did your review confirm that this is consistent to what the application was looking at, and that there's 20 spaces based on the way the allocation is shown here, and that's all that is required? Because I'm getting the impression from the gentleman here is that there should actually be more spaces required, not just the 20.
So what I would say was, we did not have in the files, we did not have, up until last week, we did not have the 1997 plan.
Okay.
The condo association provided it. We have really good files in the office. We did not have that. I did not catch the reduction that the surveyor made in some cases of what exactly he was proposing, and that, so, now I see the changes that have been made, I mean, I did not check that.
Well,
I see it now. I don't know that they had the right necessarily to do that. I think that we do have, like I said before, if we stop sharing the photo, the plan for a minute, we do have the owner of the property on, who had actually, I have been able to confirm with her that she had had some type of a conversation or an agreement worked out with the condo association. I did not have the president of the association. I did not have that information as part of the application package. That's not something that we normally request. I had requested the lease and the owner authorization. In this case, I probably should have asked for the condo association as well. I don't know if the applicant before us tonight was aware of the need to maybe consider reducing the number of stations in the unit. So I don't know if you want to maybe propose to them that they go back and work it all out, or maybe find some other additional spaces somewhere, but it seems pretty limited where they can put them.
Bob, you have a
Or
question?
maybe we need to confirm the uses.
Can we separate out the condos allocation of spaces?
Yeah.
First, let's answer the question, given the current uses at that place, how many do we require?
Right.
And if we require 20, and the condo feels like this application is gonna use more than they should, that's for them to.
Correct.
To work out and
Work
not
out.
for us. So I just wanna, I just wanna clarify what is given the current uses of the site, and with the change, what is is 20 the right number, or is it more because some of these other uses are not, what was there?
So it's 20 according to what was approved in the 1990s. There were 20 spaces required. How some of these things have changed over the years.
Okay, so we
I don't know
don't
that.
have no one has gone back over this site and said, given the uses of the other two applications and this one, it should be
Right.
X.
Yep.
But we need that.
Yeah, so there's two common elements from each of these. It's the dance studio that had 8 spaces and a residential that had 2 spaces. Now, where the difference comes in is office and salon, and it was offices and retail. Now, the offices, they were saying that there was 2 offices of 450 square feet each back in 97, and that required 6 spaces. They're showing now office only has 900 square feet, so is maybe that's something that you can help us with. Is that still the case, that there's 900 square feet for the
Yeah,
offices?
it's still the case that essentially for parking planning purposes, it's considered 900 square feet. I wasn't sure, until I looked at this plan, I dug this out of my files, but initially, the plan was actually prepared before we formed the condo association, but the original proposal, what they thought they would have a couple of 450 square foot offices in that space. As it turned out, it was a single tenant took the whole 900 square foot space. It was a jewelry store that was there for a number of years. So that, I guess from the perspective of the other unit owners, I mean, it may be that the additional requirements that are being sought, that it may be that within those 20 spaces, we can absorb that.
Yeah.
But the proposal on this, to go to this site plan, I don't own the unit that's in question, that's slated to be reduced from 6 spaces to 3 spaces. But I've spoken to those folks, and they're not happy about that. And so then, if they were to come back in, right now it's an
Right.
office. They were to come back in for retail use, as it was for most of the time, that would speak to saying it needs 6 spaces, so now they only have 3, so that's kind of.
So I guess with this new plan, I don't know where whoever the consultant was who put this together,
So,
they took and changed the 900 square foot of office that should have been 150 square feet requires a single parking space. That would be 6 spaces still. So
I believe.
there may be an error in this plan.
So this, I think what had happened is the people that rent the realtor space in the front had written a letter for me. I don't know if you gave them a copy of that. It basically is just saying that in general, they only use 1 to 3 spaces typically and that's very rare. And at the most, in the 3 years that they have been there, they have only seen 5 cars, in that lot during the time that I would be open. Because the dance studio also has different hours than I do. Usually dances in the afternoons, and I'd be closed by then, or on Saturdays. And then also they have, their recitals where at that point, they're taking up all the space probably there just to have a recital. So I feel like the space itself can hold enough for everybody that's there. But I do understand this part that if someday that's not the case, that they want their spaces. So I don't.
I think that, excuse me.
Sure.
I think that it was real nice for them to offer that. The point of the matter is when a use is set up for offices and there's 900 square feet, the requirement is 6 parking spaces. So you can't make that go away just by changing a number,
I think they were
okay?
just trying to be nice and be like, oh,
I
we
know,
have
but
these spaces. Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. Now, we as a board would have the ability to waive that if we felt it was necessary, okay? I'm not finding clear information to say that that's something that we should be doing. But it sounds like there should be more parking spaces than 20 with the way the uses are set up today. I think you need to get together with the other unit folks and work this out and come back with something that tells us what you really want to do. Because if somebody comes in and wants to just change their use and still retain the office, we're gonna require 6 spaces. And now what happens then? The burden goes back on them, and that's not really the way this should work. The applicant who's coming before us needs to deal with what the requirements are for the entire complex. So I think the best thing for you to do is to work this out and then come back on what you propose to do to resolve this. Because
Mr. Chair?
we can't resolve this just by saying, well, we're gonna waive those spaces. I don't see a reason that should happen with the amount of use that happens here at this location. Catherine, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, what's the word, support what our chair is saying. And I think what we'll need to see is, can we get a very clear table? On the one side, all the different units
Yep.
and what the condo association, how many spaces have been allocated to each unit. And then we want to look at the current use in each unit. And next to that, with the Community Development Department, put in the number of spaces required by the bylaw for each of the current uses.
Yep.
And we need to see that table very clearly
Yep.
in order to determine whether, whether there's some sort of violation of what the condo association has allocated to each unit, or whether there's a need in the bylaw to waive some spaces or something like that. So we just need to see it very clearly, a table with those two sets of numbers side by side. And then we can evaluate the situation. But
And if,
yeah.
if you work it out to say that you can make 20 units work and you're asking for a waiver, then that's what you should be doing, is asking for a waiver, because otherwise we would be requiring more parking spaces. So it's,
So, right, so we could try to work and see if we can, what do we think? In answer to,
because then you're committing that as the criteria then moving forward for this site.
the, actually, first, one comment I wanted to make was this, the current plan was prepared by the son of the gentleman that prepared the 97 plan.
Okay,
And yeah, I think we can, and the condo association does not have an allocation of parking. We've always basically tracked with this plan that was done in 97. From time to time, there have been from time to time, there have been parking issues, but generally, and especially over the last few years, I'm not aware that there have been problems. From time to time, those reserve spaces get used, but not frequently. But again, that's 20 spaces, and that front space, I'm not sure where Thad came up with, for a remote office,
Yep.
needing, for 900 square foot office, needing to show only 3 spaces.
yeah. Oh, according to our parking requirements, there should have been listed 6 spaces there on his new plan. So if you take for where the salon is going, where the retail was before, which was 4 spaces, now what that does is increase this up to 23 spaces on the site. Now that's just running through the uses and the square footage and the requirements. All right. That would be what you should have came forward with, and then ask for either a waiver or someone is going to, limit their ability, because if a use comes in afterwards on the offices and they want 6 spaces, we're going to be asking for more parking. So,
That's why I'm here to
Yep.
point out that discrepancy.
right, I think it's best if you work it out first and come back and tell us how you want to approach this. Because I don't think we can just approve the plan as shown with 20 spaces if the use is calling for 23. We need to resolve that issue first before we said, okay, we can waive or not waive or what, and why would we do that?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we
Is that something the
you-
two of you can work out and then come back?
hope so. If we could we can work something out that we think it's going to work, then she can ask you for a waiver.
That would be, if your association supports this and you're seeking some relief, then that's what you would have to do, and you'd have to convince us that that was something that
So-
we could vote for and approve.
So the association would need to ask for.
Well, again, I think we have to start there first, because the association is part of what this new applicant has to get involved with.
If I could, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
My suggestion would be that if the association was willing to do so, that it would write a letter in support to provide the applicant
Yep.
to submit with this application or
Right.
when they come back for approval. You don't have to apply for the waiver per se. It can be done in conjunction with this application.
Oh,
But I
yes.
think that
Oh, exactly.
So the association could write a letter in support of
Yeah.
the proposal.
Yeah.
That is showing needing up to 7 spaces.
Because we want to put that into our record in here, because if somebody comes back afterwards and has a change of use with some of the other units, it's going to trigger the same question.
Right, we won't be playing musical chairs with
Yep.
parking spaces, basically, so, okay. Well, hopefully we can I will speak to the other members and see what we can do.
Yeah, the applicant, is that all right for you too?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I'm willing to do whatever. I realistically need 3 chairs in there to make it work financially.
I understand that, yeah.
But I will have them park in public parking and bring them myself from there. I will make it work. So I'm very open
Okay.
to making it work.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we need to continue this then, or set a date for that?
yes.
Do,
No, I would ask whether, when they think they'd be ready to come back based on.
yes, if you could continue to be by the microphone there, and we'd like to continue this. How much time do you think you need to resolve this? 2 weeks, sometime in April? We usually meet on the second and fourth Monday of,
But we do have public hearings on the 24th of March, so.
yeah,
I'm
our
thinking
preference
maybe
is not the
14th.
24th of March. Yeah, it's,
So, yeah, that's 2 weeks. I mean, there's not that many players to talk to, and I don't know, we'll see.
how about the first month, our first meeting in April then?
Is April 14th.
April 14th? Do you think you can, we'll put you on the agenda?
I would hope so. I mean, I would
Okay.
hope we can come to an agreement.
Okay,
And we'll go from there, yeah.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
April 14th?
April 14th, right. We don't need to make a motion or anything on this, do we?
You do need to make a
Okay.
motion to continue.
Then, can I hear a motion to continue the 878 Main Street site plan review meeting to April 14th?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Warren Chain,
On chain, approve.
Bob Werschafter,
Bob Wertheimer, approve.
Frank Scheer,
Frank Scherer, approve.
Bob Dubus.
I'm going to recuse myself, or, what's the other word?
Okay,
Because I wasn't here for the
Abstain.
whole
okay,
part of that.
that's fine. And Catherine Halpern
Yes, I approve that we continue this matter to April 14th.
and Art Sprue, I approve of the continuance. We'll see you on the 14th.
Thank you.
I don't think we're going to have to worry about 5 o'clock. Let's see. Next agenda. Next agenda item is site plan approval, amended change of use, 200 Meeting House Road, Sun Shelf Storage.
So that when the applicant had sent an email on Friday saying that they would be requesting to come another time. They didn't quite request a continuance, but they said that they would not be available for tonight's meeting. We do have some items with that one, and in talking at our meeting today earlier with Art, there was some consideration of maybe requesting a time for a site visit for that particular one. The issue here is that it is a self-storage that you had approved previously. There was a request by the planning board at that time to increase the size of the island out front. The applicant is now requesting to keep it the way it is. They're also requesting to keep a couple of trees that are on site that appear to be in good condition. And then there was a relocation of the HVAC unit. We're mainly concerned with the size of the island. So, or unless the other option would be if you all want to just go out there and take a look and kind of look over the meeting minutes from that meeting to kind of refresh yourselves, those are an option, or I can request a formal site visit with all of you.
I think the confusing part I had on this when I saw the application is I wasn't, all they did is submit a Xerox copy of the previous plan, and then they just circled things with a yellow marker. So I'm not quite sure what they're asking to do. They should be a little bit more definitive on that with their information on what they're requesting. I don't know which trees that they're talking about that they want to preserve and keep, and which proposed trees that they don't want. They really need to give us a little bit more information so that we could make a better informed decision on this. Are there any other comments before we?
I did go out there, and
Oh, okay.
they're in the package. There are pictures of the trees that they want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what the trees are that they want to keep, and they are in good shape. Christine, you went out there and you thought that the proposal to increase the size of the island would pose a problem, or
Well, I
is
think
that your opinion?
that is correct. I think because given the tightness of that, of the front aspect of that site, if you're bringing in a truck or something like that to a storage unit to put items in, then maybe it's concerning. But then, going back over your meeting that day and going over your minutes of watching the meeting, there was a reason why you had asked for it. The applicant had said to me during the site visit that, the engineer at the time had offered it up to you, as an option without her knowledge initially.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I guess-
personally do not see a need to necessarily.
I'm
Increase
perfectly willing to go for another site visit, but my reaction is that we could possibly just approve of this. But I defer to your greater
Well,
experience.
I was here for the previous
Right.
site plan modification, and there was the major discussion about this point. One, the use was changing from what it was, and the applicant was putting parking in the front, which they show a space there. We asked for, and it's in the conditions, that the circulation drive is 24 feet. They're actually showing 29 and a half feet, even with the extended island. So eliminating that extended island puts it like wide open, and we wanted to manage the circulation. We felt that we'd like to see more landscaping there. I think there was a criteria that the first 50 feet or so needed to have landscaping. I'd have to go back in and look at this. So there was a reason why we put that as a condition, and I would like to have the applicant come forward and make their case, and rather than just make the decision without the applicant here. And, I would probably go out there again. I was sort of out of commission over the last few weeks with the flu, and it sort of didn't catch up with a lot of the homework here that I usually try to do before I have my meeting. Yes. So I would just suggest that if the board members would like to go out as a group or individually, that's fine. I think it would be helpful if we just revisited this, and I would take a look at the conditions that were put on there and sort of ask why. And then I want to understand which trees are proposed trees are not going to be put in and which existing trees are staying. It's sort of hard to tell from looking at that plan. Now, I can take a look at pictures and all of that, but
Well, thank you.
I would like the applicant to clarify that for us, and maybe when they come next time, they can do that.
I agree, and thank you for the background.
Okay. So with that, I guess we should.
Mr. Chairman, Catherine?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Catherine.
No,
I apologize.
no, that's all right. No worries. It's hard to see someone remote. And Mr. Chair, I do want to support what you've just said. And what I find is always really helpful, we need to see clearly the plan that we approved, and then we need to see exactly what they want to change on a plan, in a picture. I would like to see that before we do a site visit, if we choose to do either a formal or individual site visit. We just need to be very clear about what they're proposing to change on what the plan was that we approved previously. And I do recall, Mr. Chair, there were some of these issues we did discuss at length when we first reviewed this because of the issues that you've described. So thank you. That's it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mr. Dubus?
we could either have them flag the ones that are coming out,
Good idea.
flag the ones that are staying.
Yeah,
And
Good
then
idea.
He could, if he knew what day we were coming out there, he could spray paint the islands that he wants to
Yeah.
add on to, so we get a visual out of that.
another good idea. I like both of those. Okay, so we should have a motion to continue this. Are we going to do the first meeting in April again for this?
Well, we have to talk to them, but I would continue it to the first week of April, and I
April,
will tell them, yes,
Okay, so,
that's April 14th.
yeah, there'll be a motion to continue the site plan approval amended change of use for 200 Meeting House Road to April 14th, 2025. Do I hear a motion for that?
So approve, move.
So moved. And then do I have a second?
Warren Chain, I second.
Thank you. I'll take a roll call vote. Warren Chain,
Approve.
Bob Wirtschafter,
Approve.
Frank Shear,
Approve.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus, approve?
Catherine Halpern,
Yes, I approve.
and R. Sprue, I approve. Okay, so I would, we have a few minutes before 5, so what I'd like to do is, the public hearing was originally scheduled for 5, but I'd like to take the long-range planning and one item out of order there, the future accessory dwelling units bylaw update, and just to give an update from staff about what the next steps are with that.
So we received the state accessory dwelling unit bylaw, and we have town council is currently reviewing it. We will bring comments to you all once we get all of the comments in line. Staff is going over it as well. We are waiting still for the guidance from the seasonal communities, seasonal communities bylaw, so that we can incorporate that into it as well. So this will be something on your docket for long-range planning as we move forward. Yes.
Christine, this is a proposed bylaw that we have here?
That is what came from, that's what we have from the state right
Right.
now. Does it say proposed?
No.
So that's the
It's
state,
not-
that's the state bylaw, I'm sorry, that's the state one. You
It's
do
the
not
state
have,
bylaw.
you
Okay.
do not have the proposed one from
Okay, thank
council
you.
yet.
Right. From my understanding is that it will require some major changes in our bylaw, and a redrafting needs to be done for the bylaw. So based on the law, the legislative law that was passed. Okay. Catherine, do you have something?
Yeah, no, just the same thing. When we get to it, if we can, again, just see clearly, what the bylaw that we have currently in place and what the proposed changes are based on the changes in the Massachusetts state law. when we get there. So,
Okay. All right, so the next long-range planning item, since we're not holding the public hearing, is a discussion of the West Chatham Neighborhood Center District bylaw. Just as a reminder for the public, the original date for this hearing was scheduled for today, the 10th, at 5 o'clock. However, due into a posting error, it was require us to actually reschedule this public hearing to March 17th at 4 p.m. So therefore, we are not going to be holding a formal public hearing tonight. We're just going to have sort of, I would call it a prep meeting by the board members. And we do have comments from town council on the latest draft that we have. I thought it would be good if we could review some of those and see what issues they raise. And I don't expect that we'll make any decisions on this at all tonight, that is something that is going to be deferred to the actual public hearing on the 17th. And I would say at the end, if there is any public comment, that would be fine. However, that public comment will not be official and will not be part of the record for the hearing, because that would either have to be submitted in writing, or if the public attends the meeting on the 17th and they present their comments at that point. So with that, I think everyone has a copy of town council's comments. And maybe we can go through these as we did before. Some of these are pretty straightforward. But the implication on this is, if it's a simple text thing, the edit might be straightforward enough for us to do. The edits would be done after the public hearing on the 17th for referral to the select board on the 18th. So we really don't have time to, I guess, make major refinements, revisions that we would need to discuss and deliberate. That is part of what we have to live with based on the state we have right now. I think after we review these comments and we make we have an understanding of what the major points are that town council is bringing up, if after the public hearing on the 17th we find it necessary for us to make some adjustments in this, we can make a decision at that point on whether we move forward with it or we just leave the comments as they are. I mean, the language as it is. Also, I believe this is being reviewed by the Attorney General's office. Is that right, Christine?
That is correct. The Attorney General's office had offered recently to review bylaws in advance of town meeting. They did it particularly with regard to the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. Obviously, since we do not have ours ready to go forward yet, we had inquired about them reviewing this bylaw, so they do have that. We hope to receive comment within the next couple of days. Does everybody have a copy of the bylaw with the town council comments in front of you? It seemed like there was
Yes.
some confusion down at the end, yes. Yes, that's.
Yeah, that's true.
I think just Bob Dubus doesn't have it.
Is the version that we just
I
received
think
Yes.
different than the comments we have seen previously from town council?
that's correct. These are
So this
these are
is
more
new
recent.
stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
What's the date? Is there a date of these more recent?
So, I'm sorry, you have to.
Is there a date of the comments?
So at the top, it says February 13th. We received them on the 20th from, so we had given town council a clean copy based on all of the revisions that we made and started fresh with track changes. So you have,
Yeah, and this.
Annie had passed this out prior to the meeting. We do also have the housing specialist here today to answer questions as we go through the items.
Okay, why don't we start? Some of these are going to be pretty quick, others are going to be a discussion item, so let's just start with the first one on page 1. This is a comment that's been carried over by town council for quite a bit, and I think our understanding after I talked with Christine about this is, and this might be where we look for feedback from the Attorney General's office. There may be no issue associated with this. We won't know that. And my understanding is if we had a bylaw for the inclusionary housing, that this would be something that could be covered every place and not just for this meeting. And I think Gloria can perhaps clarify that for me. Or incentive, yeah.
Yes, as mentioned, this is a comment that is consistent, saying that, maybe 20% is too much. I would put out the possibility that maybe as part of the purpose, we could say something like, obviously in better terms, but like, because Chatham is so behind the game and we're at less than 5%, we need to actually have a higher percentage in our inclusionary bylaw to push us up to that 10%. So that can be part of the purpose, if you want to go that way. I think that the 20% is probably fine without that, though. I mean, that's why we're doing it, right? If we put 10% on there,
Yeah.
we'll never hit 10%.
Right. Bob Werschafter?
No, I like that. And I like having it in at the beginning.
And beef it up a little bit, the purpose, okay.
One comment?
Yeah, Frank, please?
Yeah, this has been submitted to the Attorney General.
It has been submitted to the Attorney General's office. They're going to do a cursory review. That does not mean
That's
that
right.
they're going to approve it even after, if town meeting
Okay, it's
approves it.
just a
and we
preliminary
go.
look.
It's
That's-
just a
that's
preliminary
correct.
look.
Thank you.
I think.
Obviously, I am not a housing specialist, but I had some consideration to maybe, the purpose, you can still have it be the percentage that Gloria has suggested, 20% or whatever the percentage is that you want, but maybe you don't need to be that specific in this opening statement, so that is another option you can pursue as well. I mean, you seem to all be in agreement with going forward that way, but most of your other purpose items are very general in nature. So I don't know if we just leave the 20% later on in the document, but that is another thing that you should
Yeah.
possibly consider. So if that's the case, I would end up striking all of the language after West Chatham Neighborhood Center. And again, that's for consistency with the guidance in the other.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so going on to page 2, these are just some inserts that the town council has put in here. It was just for clarity. These are pretty straightforward. I didn't see any issues with these. If the first under procedures by the planning board was added at the end, and after affordable housing, a dwelling unit that is was added. So it's just some language that town council wanted to use for clarifying the points in that section. You see them? The underlined sections are what the town council has added. Page
Can
3.
Can
Catherine,
you remind us? Yes, what is the current page that we're on?
that was
Are you
page,
showing that?
that was page 2.
Page 2.
Yeah. At,
I mean, I don't
under
s-
procedures, it was, town
Oh,
council
okay.
added by the planning board at the end of the
Okay,
paragraph.
fine. Okay, thank you.
Similar on page 3, at the top, it was added at the end as clarification, a deed restriction for attainable housing shall be the longest period allowed by law. And I think this is something that we talked about previously.
Well, it's also further on in the document.
Okay, thank you.
It was already added, just not there.
All right, so underneath the next one, which is inclusionary housing, this is where I think there was some points that the town council wanted to make. I'm not quite sure how, because I don't think we used the word inclusionary housing anyplace else in the document, do we, Gloria?
No. I mean, you guys asked for a definition of.
We
Yes,
did.
To me, it's very odd having a definition which isn't used anywhere.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, okay.
So, but
Oh, wait a minute.
it is used,
Christine did find it someplace, just a
Okay.
minute.
where?
It's at the end of section 7, there is one.
And then section 7, yeah, it's on page
It's the last bullet.
6, and it is the, at the top of the page, the second bullet, first line, end of first line. It says, for additional units in development of over 5 units that result in a fractional inclusionary unit, but I'm not quite sure that's the same thing as inclusionary
Right.
housing, so
Right.
I think we're still okay with deleting this, and it wouldn't be an issue.
I agree,
Okay.
yeah.
I think,
Agreed.
is that you, Catherine?
Yeah, I just agreed.
Okay. I think deletions are easy to do. It's where we get into added language that we would really need to actually review it by the board. That's where it's going to be it might be a challenge for us, so. On the next one, the town council put a question in, using advance reservations. We, and I think Gloria helped us with this is consistent with the Board of the Health definition, and I,
So it's actually the state definition.
Oh, is
It's in
it? Okay.
statute and the Code of Massachusetts regulations. So
So-
this is actual language at that level that we pulled into the Board of Health and that we mirrored in the planning board
Yeah.
stuff.
so I don't see any issue with us keeping it the way it is.
I would recommend that you actually do keep it so
Yep.
that it is consistent with the law.
Thank you. Okay, I think that was it on that page. So now we go to page 4. And this was just underneath mixed use there. It's just, he added a statement in F commercial and residential uses. And he took out and dwelling units at the end.
Fine.
So that was just a little edit. I didn't see any issues with that. Okay, so going on page 5, he highlighted each of the bullets underneath section 7, and then his comment is over on the top of page 6. And this requirement could be vulnerable to a challenge. I'm not quite sure where the issue is on this, and maybe you can,
It's the 20%.
maybe you can help us.
Is it the 20% or is it the payment in lieu? So this payment in lieu mirrors what we did in Provincetown, which was approved by the AG's office like 10 years ago. So I don't, if the overall issue is a payment in lieu schedule,
Yeah.
there's already, approved municipal bylaws that include that. So maybe it's a more general, question about 20% as
Well,
opposed to.
except for 5 new dwelling units, it clearly says 20%, and he didn't
He didn't comment about
comment
that.
on that one, so
Right.
maybe you're right.
Yeah. This, to me, on this one, if we're going to flush this out further, would cause us to pause this bylaw. I don't see a reason to do that at this point. If there was a major flag on this, if we got something from the Attorney General's preliminary review that said that there's an issue, that might,
Well, why don't we wait and see if we got a reaction, but,
we're not quite sure when we're gonna get the preliminary comments from the
Sure.
Attorney General's office.
sure, but, I don't understand the comments, so I
Yep.
can't,
Okay, moving down on page 6, I think he put, again, he kept inserting the word average construction cost in every single one of them anyway. That's a simple clarification. I don't see any problem with that. Moving down to the, just above section 8, he modified the language there to, instead of value, replaced it with construction cost. That's a pretty easy change of the language there as clarification. If there's no comments on that, we can just go to the next section 8. Okay, so section 8, underneath density bonus, and this was a highlight comment that he had before. So double density for one extra affordable attainable unit. And this was commented before, and we said yes.
And that's misleading too,
Yeah.
because if you double the density and you end up with 10 units, you actually have 2.5 units.
That's right.
Of inclusionary housing, not one. So I don't know where that came from.
I don't see any issue with this. This is always our intent, and we've written it that way. Just below that, on the third bullet down, it says, if the 25% density bonus requirement for attainable units.
That
just
should say affordable and attainable.
Yes.
Affordable and attainable?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know where that,
okay.
how that got lost.
Okay. Going down to section 9 below, these are just some edits that town council was making with some of the language. First required unit shall be an affordable unit. That's the language that he is suggesting that we used, and shall be an eligible for inclusion on the town's subsidized housing inventory. Any,
So I might go back to the definition and change affordable housing to like affordable housing unit or something like that.
okay,
I mean, if you're gonna add it there, I would add it.
yeah.
I would add it.
And then he carried.
I mean, the
Go ahead.
the language that was now crossed out and changed to affordable unit was actually edited by Attorney Tallerman. Like, that was the, the language that's there
Yeah.
was, you know, his language, affordable to households earning at or below 80%
And-
AMI.
And then,
And it's consistent with what we have in the second, which is second required.
Right.
Affordable to households earning no more than 100.
right. All right, so he added the language and attainable unit in each of those cases. I guess, again, he was trying to clarify a point. All right.
Well, but so actually, I'm glad you pointed that out, because was that the intention that it would absolutely be attainable? Because I vaguely remember conversations saying that it could be anything up to that, like it could be
Anything up to that.
affordable.
Correct.
So is that the intention, that we're only doing attainable units, or are we giving them the option of doing anything up to 100%?
I thought it was the latter, that we were giving them an option to do anything up to 100%.
That was my recollection as well.
So does that change the
Yeah,
language?
I would take out attainable unit. So the second required one can be up to 100%, meaning it can be 80%, which is
Yeah.
affordable, 90% attainable, 100% attainable.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Please, Catherine, go ahead.
I do recall, however, that there was some discussion at one of our board meetings that we did want to make the second one attainable rather than affordable, because we wanted to ensure that in addition to affordable with a capital A, that we did get attainable units. So I do recall that the board discussed, that we did want the second required unit to be an attainable rather than affordable. That's
I don't
my
think this
recollection.
is, I don't think this is eliminating that, but it's giving them options that they could go with an affordable unit, though.
Okay, that's what I recall, is that we
Okay.
actually,
No, not as
We
written,
didn't
it said
wanna
it
do
shall
that.
be an attainable unit.
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Oh, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying, yes.
we
Which is
wanted
my
it
recollection
specifically to
too.
be
We had
attainable.
decided that that
Yeah.
would be a useful thing
Well,
to do.
all right, so what is the board's pleasure for this? How,
Well, if that's what we decided, then the wording is, I would take his corrections and leave them.
leave
Yeah.
those corrections, all right. Catherine, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
All right,
I recall that we did decide that we wanted the second one attainable, so I would be in favor of just leaving the language as it is.
okay,
I might unstrike in the first bullet point, affordable to households earning at or below 80% AMI. That way it's consistent with everything else. So the first required unit shall be an affordable unit, affordable to households earning at or below 80%. The second required unit shall be an attainable unit, affordable to households earning no more than 100%.
Yeah.
Additional units may be attainable units. Actually, we should say affordable or attainable units. How about that? Unless you don't want any more than one affordable unit. That
I
wasn't my.
think what I said is we didn't want to do this. We wanted the second one to be attainable.
Yeah,
and
I think
Well, what
that-
about the third
Yeah.
one?
yeah,
The same thing. We wanted the third one to be attainable.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, the second and third bullet, we're gonna leave the word attainable units in
Perfect.
each of those. Next, page 7. I think when I talked with Christine about this and Katie, I think if we, this is the second bullet there, he's talking about the base amenities, and I think if we insert after in quality, base materials and finishes, that should address the comments that town council has made there associated with the comment JT7.
So just add the word base before materials and finishes?
That's what I think what we suggested, right, when we talked,
Yes, that's correct.
yeah.
So if one of them has a hot tub, they all have to have a hot tub? I mean, it's not just the
Yeah.
materials, it's the amenities as well. So
Yep.
I think
Yep,
this is actually an interesting comment.
comment, yeah, it is.
Well, doesn't it read so indistinguishable from market rate units in quality base materials and finishes, comma, access to and use of amenities? So that would be amenities within the development.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem like we're gonna require amenities for, do you know what I mean? Because base would be describing materials and finishes. So it's the adjective for those. But access to and use of amenities is a separate, phrase.
So the regular base
I-
unit
I agree.
has a fancy bathroom,
Yeah.
and the others would have to have that same bathroom?
They would, if like the base materials and finishes are, marble countertops, then yes, they would have to have that.
And there's no room for custom,
Well, the
Post-custom.
the other units could have custom things, but if like the base that they're going from is marble counters, then they're all getting marble counters. Some people can upgrade.
okay.
You know.
That's, it
okay.
doesn't say that, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It does say, well, sorry, this is Catherine,
Good.
can I?
Go ahead.
If we add word base, as we're suggesting, that market rate units in quality, base materials and finishes, access to and use of amenities and location, if we add the word base, they can upgrade over the base. It's just that the affordable and attainable deed restriction, the affordable deed restricted units need to have the same base level. So just to reiterate what Gloria said, if the base level is marble countertops, they will have marble countertops. If someone wants to upgrade to Carrera marble countertops or something, they don't need to have that. That's an individual upgrade.
Yeah, and the access to and use of amenities is separate. That
Right.
means the amenities for
agree.
the development.
Yeah, I agree.
It's fine, because I don't think we can get around it, but every builder will figure out a way to get around that, this one. But I don't think we could stop it.
Right.
Let's just put the wording in the way it is.
I agree, yeah. The next bullet down, the type of review, it is a special permit, so the suggestion is the applicant may apply to the planning board through the special permit process for a discretionary waiver. So just insert the words "through the special permit process." And that addresses that item. It's just a clarification that it's not site plan, it's a special permit.
Agreed.
The next, I think the fourth bullet down, this one is a little tricky. I think the comment that is put forth by the town council does state some nuances that occur based on certain situations. I don't know how we're going to resolve this language before we can refer this to the select board. So I think this one, this goes into the category, if it's important enough for us to address, then we may have to look at pausing this, advancing this bylaw, or we just leave it the way it is right now, and if we run into some issues, we'll have to deal with it. That's my take on this comment.
I agree.
Okay. Let's see, what page am I on? This is page 8. There's a bar underneath section 12, parking setbacks. Christine, I'm not quite sure what that one is.
Looks like there's a period.
Oh, okay, so that's just a typo piece. The next one underneath section 13B, it's the second bullet. He's referring a certain amount or any. And I think my discussion with you, Christine and Katie, is let's just delete the highlight. And if residential development includes deed-restricted affordable housing units, maximum height allowed is 2.5 stories. So it's just a simple, his was complicated, ours was actually confusing it, so just delete it and it's pretty direct.
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, again, as I had sent a message off to you with a suggestion on this, that I don't have an issue, I suppose, if the board is fine to do what you just suggested, but if so, then the first bullet there is meaningless. Because as soon as you have an affordable unit in a development of perhaps 10, 12 units per acre or something like that, it means that every structure in the entire development can be 2.5 stories high.
No, it's just that structure.
But it doesn't, that's not what
I
what
think
you
originally
suggested
that
it say.
was that part of the bonus, like
That's
the
correct.
density bonus?
My understanding is this only is applicable to the density bonus.
So then maybe so if a residential development includes 25% deed-restricted affordable housing units as opposed to 20,
Well, no, I think
and the
what-
maximum height
I think
is
what the
allowed to
sense of the
be.
board was when this issue was sort of in the drafting stage was that if a building is going to have affordable unit in it or units, that we'll try and, part of the bonus could be, that would be 2.5 stories. Whereas
But
bullet
that's an
number one
but that's an
says
incentive, right? That's for the 25% as opposed to the base affordability of 20%.
May I make a comment, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Catherine, go ahead.
The way it's worded here is just that for a deed-restricted affordable housing unit, we wanted to allow 2.5 stories. So I don't think it was a part of the bonus or anything. It was just any deed-restricted affordable unit, would be we'd allow 2.5 stories, whereas otherwise we were allowing 2 stories. I think it was just that simple.
Well, if it were worded that way, that would be fine.
Well, that's not
But if
simple.
it's not changed from what it is, then the limit of 2 stories is meaningless as long as there's one affordable unit in the entire development.
Right, but people
if
may
No, you're right.
not,
If we're, if
One
we're,
at a time, Bob, go.
okay, if we're building single-unit structures, that works. If we're building multi-unit structures, then it's 2.5 for the structure, not for the unit, so.
Yeah.
I think we have to fix this to either be, I thought the 25%, if you get the 25%, then you can go to 2.5 stories. That's, seems to be what we want.
But that's different because it's 20, isn't the 25% a mix of affordable and attainable? And this is referring, this sentence here refers just to deed
Just deed
restricted
restricted.
affordable housing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think it applies, we might need to reword this to say what we mean.
Affordable and
that it-
attainable housing.
Well, if that's what we mean, I don't think that's what we meant. I think what we meant was for deed restricted affordable housing units, we wanted to allow 2.5 stories for that building.
Yeah, that's
So
correct.
it
A
could-
building that had an
yeah.
affordable or attainable unit would be 2.5 stories.
So if
I,
there's
I don't think we included attainable in this. I think it
Correct.
was just affordable,
I-
as I
Affordable.
recall.
that's the way I'm, now that you mention it, Catherine, that's the way I'm reading it too. If there is an attainable unit, it doesn't go 2.5 stories, it's 2 stories.
Correct, correct. We wanted to
The
make
only-
that allowance.
The
for
only place
the
that you're
affordable
allowed,
units.
if you take a look at the wording of this, it's only deed restricted affordable housing units are allowed 2.5 stories. That's all.
we just-
Nothing else is allowed 2.5 stories.
No, but
Yeah.
it
That's
says if the residential development, and the development might have one building with one affordable, attainable unit in it.
Oh, I see what you're
Then
saying.
the
Okay,
entire
okay.
You apply that
development
to
would
every
then be
structure.
given 2.5 stories, even though all of the other buildings
So the
were
clarification
were
you're
market
looking,
rate units.
Exactly. So I see what you're saying. So if you have multiple structures
Right.
and only one of the structures has an affordable unit,
right.
that's the only structure that goes to 2.5 stories. All
Correct.
the other structures don't because they
Correct.
don't have it.
Otherwise,
Correct.
bullet one means nothing.
so is this something we can clarify with some easy adjustment?
Yeah, yeah.
You see?
I think
We'll
it's just-
wordsmith it.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
just some basic English grammar changing around.
That's what I'm hoping
Just
on
a-
in this.
Yeah,
Is that agreeable with the board? Okay. I think that was the intent. All right. Next, on page 9, it's down at the bottom of the page, I think 4 bullets up from the bottom. Okay, I think this has to do with historic structures. I think when we talked about this, Christine, Katie, the general bylaw does describe this, correct? Okay.
Oh, no, that's not.
That right there?
Yeah.
Okay, historic structures, the historically significant buildings or structures as defined in section 158 of the general bylaws of HBDC. So it's there in the general bylaws, so I'm not quite sure that we need to do anything associated with this. It is elsewhere, and I think at the.
But you could make reference to that if you want to, that other
think-
section in the general bylaw.
I think you mentioned to me, Katie, that there's a piece in here that says that, I think that's that the rest of the bylaws are still revisions, section,
right, that was not in relation to this, but
other sections of the town's protective bylaws also apply within the district, except that where this section conflicts with and differs from other sections of Chatham protective bylaw. So
Yeah,
underneath to applicability, it's saying that all those other sections are still applicable. That is clearly defined in other sections, so I don't think we have to.
Well, I kind of agree with Christine. It wouldn't hurt to put in a reference, right?
That's correct. If town council is asking a question, I suggest that that's reason enough to put a parenthesis in there see
Okay.
blankety blank.
Okay,
And just to
by
clarify,
general bylaw.
yeah, go ahead, Kate.
those are not necessarily defined in our protective bylaw,
Oh,
they're in our general bylaw.
oh, general bylaw, okay, okay.
So
Yeah.
I think we should clarify.
All right, so the language that I read there is what we would be adding. Okay?
I would agree to add a reference to the definition elsewhere.
All right, I'm at page 10 now. At the bottom of page, street trees. I don't think we need to make any edits here. I think it's, it states that the planning board in consultation with a tree may waive this, and it's during the site plan review. So it is clearly stated in here, so I don't think we have to do anything on this particular one.
Agreed.
That, agree?
Agreed. Agreed.
And I think we're getting close to no other edits.
It's usually the case that nobody puts edits on the last 4 or 5 pages. We don't read this.
Okay.
Can't
There is,
get that.
there is one other item that came up when Christine and I were first at the select board meeting, and we discussed this with them. The question of a single-family residential was raised. I explained our thought process associated with this. However, there may be something that the board would entertain associated with this. I think we always intended that zones A1 and A2 would not have single-family residential. We're looking for that to be, multifamily dwelling units. However, Zone B, which is off the main road, there's a few lots that are existing today that could fall into this category. Not many, I think a couple, 3. We could add under the table there, special, for zone A1 and A2, single-family dwelling units would not be allowed. But we could consider language to allow single-family housing to still be built on properties by owners in Zone B by special permit at the time of this bylaw was adopted. Or consider something like that, we can put language in on that. Now, that, to me, would be a little bit of a compromise, because this issue keeps coming up. And I can understand if it's far enough off of the main road and the main zones that this is something that we consider, and it would only be a few lots that are existing right now today.
Yeah,
Versus,
I-
it wouldn't apply to new lots. If somebody was creating a new lot
Right.
and they wanted to put residential on it, then I would say no.
So only existing lots. In
That would be
zone-
a suggestion
yeah.
to perhaps address this question that keeps coming
Yeah,
up.
I think that's a very interesting proposal. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Warren?
Chairman, I would respectfully disagree with that. We've had long conversations about this. And I'll characterize my sense of where we came out, and that was there are few enough lots in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center to develop. There's no shortage of single-family dwelling units in Chatham as a whole. There's no shortage in places where you can put a single-family or single dwelling unit. And our intention here is to increase the density
Right.
of housing in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center, and therefore, in order to, inconsistent with that overall objective, we do not wish to have single-family dwelling units built in that one small little section that is limited in its total ability to increase density by allowing single-family dwelling units, and that's why it is the way it is. So that's my
Well,
recollection and the way I still feel.
I think I was in the same thinking that you were. However, I've gone to the direction of, we're increasing the amount of density here. now in this. We're allowing more density than when we originally started with. This is going to be a good thing. We've done build-on analysis. We've gotten images from Union Studios associated with this. We can get, and we'll see that development can occur on this where many of the larger sites could be residential, multifamily residential. The number of lots that this could apply to is very limited. We're talking about what exists today and the way they are today. I think this would be a reasonable compromise because of the density that we're allowing as a bonus to all the other zones. And this is not a requirement. This is an option. It's a special permit. We would still go through a process of vetting this. So I'm thinking as a compromise, this is something that, because it's very limited, and we've adjusted the density up to the point that we are going to have significant density. If we have one or two in the B zone only that are pre-existing today as single family, it's not going to break the bank.
I understand the comment.
Okay.
And my recollection is that as we discuss this,
Yep.
the compromise that we sort of came up with was the introduction of the transition zone concept, which would be
That's correct.
adjacent to the West Chatham Neighborhood Center, potentially, on both sides. And in a transition zone, we could have increased density, but would certainly permit
Yep.
single-family dwelling units.
Yep.
And that way, you would be able, in the next iteration of zoning modifications, to address that issue. But again, we come back to it, there's little enough in the way of space in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. And to, in the net, well, unless we prohibit single-family dwelling units, that's what you're going to have. We have them being built in the commercial zones in town. I mean,
Yeah, but
and they're
we're
gonna
not
be-
talking about this in the A1 and A2 zones.
No, I
This is-
understand
This
that.
is,
I
this is
understand that.
outside of the major frontage zones of,
It's not a question of what it looks like from the street or anything else. It's a question of the number of housing units that we're going to be able to put in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. The intention is to increase it by increasing the density, and single-family units don't fit with that overall objective. There's plenty of places in town to put a single-family dwelling unit. We don't
Okay.
need to put it in the one little section of town where we have said, gee, we're trying to increase density, increase affordability. And that's why we ended up drafting it saying, no, not in this area.
Okay.
Transition zones, that's a good concept, I agree, I think that's great. And single-family units that are on perhaps smaller lot sizes that
Yep.
would be authorized in transition, I think that's a terrific idea. I just firmly remember and was very much in favor of saying, well, not in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. No single-family units, that's not what we're looking for. There's
right.
plenty there already.
All right.
I mean, and they can be redeveloped as single-family units.
All
It's
right.
not as if there aren't any.
all right, let's hear from the rest of the board members. Bob Wirtschafter?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Warren that we had addressed this. And first of all, I don't think it's a big thing, because you're talking about an existing property. So that existing property does have the right to stay a single family,
Okay.
right? No?
No?
We were talking about vacant
Vacant.
parcels
Yeah.
that are in
Vacant
existence
parcels.
at the time of adoption of the
Okay.
bylaw. Could be allowed by special permit, as they would be allowed now by special permit to build a single-family dwelling. So you're talking about maybe 3 or 4 lots that are vacant parcels currently in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. And again, we were thinking wording that the lot would have to be in existence, so you couldn't subdivide a lot
Yep.
and put a single-family dwelling on it. But if there were some of these smaller lots in the Zone B that would lend themselves better to a single-family dwelling rather than a multifamily dwelling, that the board could entertain.
a special permit in Zone B only. And that was staff's recommendation for wording.
Can we put a maximum size on the property? Because, I mean, if it's 40, if it's a half an acre, it really should have 2 units.
So you could say lots under a certain square
Yes.
footage
Then
in
I'd be
existence.
okay.
So.
But it'd
so
have
what-
to be real small, because we would really love to have a duplex on there.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're
So-
saying. Good point. Frank, your thoughts on this? We haven't changed anything, by the way. I just want to know.
course.
This was brought up, and I thought it was something
Yeah.
that I should share with the board members, just
Right.
to flush this out before we finalize.
I think that, I'm reluctant to take existing property rights away from somebody. And so someone has a lot, and they have been planning to put up a building on it, a house, their home, and now they can't. And that just kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. I think the reality is that this rezoning is going to make the lots worth far more if they're developed with the bonus, et cetera, than if someone does put a single-family home on there. So I think even if we allow this, the reality is that of those 4 lots, maybe one would end up actually having a home on it.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of that approach that you've outlined.
Okay. Bob Dubus?
I'm in favor of not allowing
No.
the single-family houses
Okay,
in that area, because there's not that much area left.
right,
And this is what we're trying to do.
okay. Is your mic
Oh,
on?
sorry. Did I say it all right?
Yeah.
Want me to
As long
say
as-
it again?
as long as you, yeah, go ahead.
I said I'm in favor of not allowing
Okay,
single-family housing.
okay. Catherine, do you have a comment on
Yes.
this?
I do, Mr. Chair. When we discussed this previously, I had understood this was for lots where there was already a single-family home built on that lot, that we would, in a sense, allow that to be grandfathered,
Right.
to use that word. But if it's pertaining to vacant lots, I'm afraid I'm going to have to change my opinion and concur with Warren and Bob Dubus that I think we should not allow new single-family homes to be built. I think we've been quite strong on that since the beginning. This is the place where we want to have multifamily housing allowed, and smaller units. I think in the buffer zones, what we're thinking of is smaller single-family home. We might create a new zone, like an R10 or something, and have smaller unit, sort of the cottage type of development that could still be single-family homes. But I think I had understood it was for already existing single-family homes in the B area. But if it's for vacant lots, I would agree that we should not allow single-family homes. I don't think we're taking away property rights. In some sense, whenever we do zoning, we're taking away property rights and we're creating property rights. We're defining what the property rights will be. And in this sense, I think what we'd be doing would be consistent with the rest of the district. So I would favor not adding single-family homes. One suggestion I'd make is we could see what the public input is at the public hearing.
Yep.
Because I think it's also correct to say that we haven't really heard a huge outcry, from many people
Yep.
that they want single-family homes in West Chatham. So why don't we also hear what the public says at the public hearing?
Right, okay. Katie, did you have
Okay.
something you wanted to add? No? Okay,
Only that state law would protect any pre-existing.
Pre-existing, right.
In single-family dwelling.
Right.
So just that's how that would happen, not necessarily through anything that we're writing into this bylaw.
Correct.
If you look in the residential section, 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes down.
This is on the table?
Yeah, multifamily dwelling with 1 to 4 residential units. I think it should probably say 2 to 4.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
if we're not allowing single-family homes.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. Good pick up. Okay, I think that Catherine's suggestion is that we defer this to after we hear from the public input on the 17th, and we can go from there. I think it might be tricky to get the language in less than a 24-hour period afterwards, so that might be part of our challenge associated with that. I think that was the last of the comments right now, so what I'd like, there is some, next?
We have one comment from the zoning
Oh, yeah.
permit coordinator
Thank you.
that we need to address, the first one.
That one there? Okay, landscape standards, page 11, corner lot concern. Reducing 2 to 3 inches to 2.5 would solve the issue. I'm not quite sure what this is talking about.
Okay, so at the end of that,
Let's see, page 11, right?
page 11, the third bullet, which is the third bullet, the first bullet starts on the first page. So at the top of the page, the second bullet down, it says, at the end, and/or a low fence or landscape wall, 2 to 3 feet in height. And she is just recommending that you make it below 2.5 feet, because there is something in the protective bylaws that refers to 2.5 feet.
Okay,
So it's only for corner lots, and it's for like visuals.
Oh,
okay, so just change the 2 to 3 to 2.5.
2.5 and below, or a maximum of 2.5%.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, that's for sight when you're driving around a corner.
that's correct, yeah, yeah.
and this is at the top of page 11, is that correct?
Yes, second bullet, Catherine.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And the other, nothing on the second comment. Okay. Did we tackle everything? Yes, I was going to go to if there was any public comment, and I just, like the public, if you do have a comment, you will either need to put this in writing if you can't make the meeting on the 17th, or you would need to appear on the 17th for it to be officially a public hearing comment. So if there's, I don't see any hands raised, but if there's anyone who'd like to make a comment of what we've discussed so far, not seeing anything. That completes activities for the night.
Catherine?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Mr. Chair, could maybe you can verify this, subsequent to this meeting, but according to my notes, I saw only one comment from Attorney Tellerman that would cause us to have to pause this going forward. That might take greater consideration by the board and some work, and that was on page 7.
7,
His
yes.
comment, yeah, that was the only one I noted that could cause us pause. So I just want to say, I think that's pretty good, and we
I
just
will-
need to look
Yeah,
at.
I will review this with Christine and Katie and seeing if, how
Do you mean the
much of
no,
an issue
the
that
no
this would be.
occupancy permit one?
Pardon me?
The no occupancy permit bullet point?
That's correct. He highlighted the last part of it, which says has been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And so that's, certain nuances of particular applications might require different criteria, so.
So one of the ways that you can handle this in an ownership project is to say something like, the last occupancy permit for a non-deed restricted unit cannot be issued until the deed restricted unit is recorded. So instead of having deed restricted units recorded, you can go on and fill those units, market rate, affordable, but you can't fill the last market rate until you have the deed restricted unit for the deed restriction for the affordable unit recorded.
Okay.
That's a way of getting developers to do that last affordable unit when they have to wait to do the very final unit.
So let's catch up on this, Christine, and seeing what that would take to do this. Okay. Any other items before we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, seeing or hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Bob, you get your job back.
Yeah.
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a
Second.
All right, a roll call vote. Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Werschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Frank Shear,
Frank Sure approve.
Bob Dubus,
Dubus, approve.
Catherine Hepburn,
Catherine Halpern, approve.
and Art Sprue, I approve. And the time is 5:55.